what's up guys? This is me again, Takimi. So for this video, we will walk through the implementation for the user logout feature for our custom property rental management web portal. And we will start from the back end through the front end, and without further ado, let us start. So right here, we will start with the back end first and then going through the front end as we go along with the implementation. So to start with, we have this account controller, which has the API endpoint of API v1 account, and then the specific endpoint that we will be using is the this one here, the route logout, which has the response types of boolean and status code of 200. So that means if the request is successful, so it will return a status code of 200 and then a boolean value of true, but otherwise, uh, there's a error that will be indicated. So for this method here, we do have the payload of logout user command payload, which has the properties or the values being sent from the client, which is the user ID. So the user ID, this indicates the current user ID that was logged in and then deciding to log out. Mhm. And then we move to the next part, which is the logout user command handler, which will basically handle the logic for logging the user out. And then, as you can see here, it has the logout user command and then the responsible request handler parameters. So here in the actual implementation we have here in line 24, which indicates that we have bo- uh, a boolean variable of is user logged out, which gets the value for the delete user permissions async. So for this method here, what this does is deletes the user session permissions that was generated when the user logged in within the platform. So basically, it's using that data to check whether, for example, the user was trying to access this certain kind of feature for the platform. Then whenever um, the user has a specific permission for that specific part that he or she was trying to access within the system or the platform, then he or she can access it. But otherwise, if he or she does not have the assigned permission for that one, so basically that user would not be able to use that specific feature. So that's the purpose for this one here. So here, so what we did was to query the session permissions via the user ID and then removing it and then from the session permissions table and then saving the changes and then we return the boolean value of true, indicating that the that that the logic was successfully executed. But otherwise, it will throw an error here. So going back for the second line here, we update the user token within the user's table, as you can see here. So since we passed the user ID, so like this one here, we pass the user ID and then query the database for that user and then setting the refresh token and then the refresh token expiry time to null and then updating that specific user with those values and saving the changes here. So the purpose for this one here is to basically add like a simple security layer that when every time that the user or users log in, so basically they will be generating a new refresh token and then a refresh token expiry time. And then when the user logs out, those fields within the database will be set to null just in case for a little bit of simple security layer. So we will see this in action in a bit. So okay, going back to the command handler. So basically, for this one here, whenever the value for the is user logged out variable is true, so the response will be returning the value and then has a success value of true, and then the status code of 200 or okay, and then a simple message which indicates the user has been logged out, and yeah. But otherwise, if the value for this variable here is false, so what will happen there is the response will return a null for the result, false for the success value, and then status code of bad regress or 400, and then the message of there has or there's an um error that basically have occurred. So let's try to test this in action. So first is we build the project and then we debug it. Mhm. Okay, so now that we have the backend API running, so let's go to Postman. So here, or let's just say before we go to Postman, let's just try to check first the data. So for example, here we have the users and session permissions. So now we will first see that for the users, we take note for this column here, like the refresh token and then the refresh token expiry. So currently, the two users that we currently have has a null value for both the refresh token and then the refresh token inquiry, and it has no session permissions yet. But notice that if we try to log in, so now we have successfully logged in via the Postman, and then now we have this company ID, the token, and all the necessary um, data or the information that we will be needing once we're logged in the platform. So we have here like the permissions and all that stuff. And notice that when we go back to the database, so before, so since we use the test reality one account, so before the refresh token column and then the refresh token by expiry time, they don't have any values yet, and the same thing goes with the session permission. So when we try to execute this again, we notice that the refresh token and then the refresh token expiry time, they were filled with values, and the same goes with the permissions. So basically, this was what I was referring to when I showed you like for this one here, the updating of u- the the user token once we log in. Yeah, and then going back. So like here we already have this one here, and then upon logging out, so what we just need is the user ID. This one here, and notice that when we log out, it's so basically we have successfully executed the API endpoint successfully. So what the logout endpoint did was first off delete the user session permissions and then update the user tokens to null, which if we go back to the database, so now now upon checking the database once the user login, these two columns has value, right? But and then the session permissions has values too. But whenever we we try to log out here and then do a refresh, you notice that these two columns here, they were updated back to their normal state before when the user has not yet logged in, and then the same goes with the session permissions. So basically, this is just a simple security like layer, just to indicate that whenever one of your basically tokens or reverse tokens has been stolen by a hacker. So basically, um, this is just a very simple way of protecting the not only the data but also the pipeline itself. So now that we have tested the back end and confirm that it's already working, let us go back to the project and then integrate it with the front end. So let me just change this configuration real quick to multiple launch. And then let's close this backend files and then just collapse this one and then go to the web app project and then the accounts. Let's go here. And for the views, let's open the accounts. And basically this um, shared modern. So for this one here, we have the logout, this one here, and then the account, this one here, and then the integration. Uh, get this one here, logout. Okay, so let's again build this project and then run it. Let's just give this a few seconds. Okay, so now let's try to, then again, let's observe. So currently we don't have the refresh token and then the expiry time yet. So we will see that when when we log in, what it will do is we have successfully logged in, right? And then when we go back to the database and then run it, so basically the same thing that we have when we tested our backend by Postman. So the user that logged in has updated its refresh token and then the expiry time, and then the user has also the session permissions. So now, whenever we try to do the logout, like basically from this UI here, so we have this logout here, which is the ones that we have like this one here. The logout basically points to the accounts controller and the action of logout. So this one here, this one here. So basically, when we log out, it we were able to be successfully logged out from the system, and then whenever we try to hit to run this one again, so basically the token fields are set to null, and then the session permissions are now gone, meaning that there is this clean slate data in a database. And then what happens within the implementation was whenever we click this logout link here, and it basically called the accounts controller, which is in this one here, the base controller root and not within the areas. And then within the accounts controller, we have this action called logout, which is this one here. So we have the accounts controller and then the logout. And when we click this logout here, so basically this logic here was invoked, and then what happens here is that from the session context we get the user ID, which will be which we will be sending or passing this user ID within our um, user logout async method within the integration service, which is this one here. So like this one here. So we have the user ID, which will which we use as the payload for the requests for the API v1 account logout endpoint, which is basically our backend. And then when we did a post request to that specific resource in the backend, we simply return the status if it is whether it's true or false. And then here we executed it. And then for the next line here, we signed out the user from the key authentication defaults. And then for this line here, we cleared the session, like whatever session was there for that user, and then we redirected the user to the login page of the account. So yeah, so basically that's it for the implementation for the backend and then the front end of our user logout feature for the property rentals custom back office web portal. And I hope that you have learned something within this video that you will be able to use in your projects, either professional level or let's say side project or thesis perhaps. And then for the next videos, we will be continuing with the other features um, that we have in this use case diagrams. And like this one here. And so yeah, that's it for the implementation for the user logout feature. And then please stay tuned for the next upcoming videos for these series. Thank you and subscribe. Thanks.